Hello, I am Bentham, and welcome back to the flagship show and longest running show of the channel. This is Factslowrio. It has, of course, been a while, but then that is exactly the idea of it. So, we get straight into it, of course. We've checked up on what's happened in updates since the last episode, and we get straight back into it, sorting out some research, because that appears to have been reset, and then we can get into working a little bit more in the factory. So this is Factslowrio. This is a long-running show for this particular channel, and I think now it has been going longer than any other show that I've ever done, and indeed it's been going for most of the time that I've been playing Factorio. But this is a series where we take Factorio and we slow it down. We relax things a little bit, and we take time to look through a bit of gameplay and really deconstruct it, take it apart, and look at all the little minute details of what happens. Because in the past I've done a lot of things with Factorio where I've sped up the playback speed and done post commentary over it, so that I could sort of very quickly discuss the general gist of what I was doing and get through the gameplay quicker. And I thought it was a good idea to balance that and take it the other way, slow it down to 1/3 speed, and take time to actually look over all the little decisions that I'm making. And to help reflect the idea that we're taking a much more relaxed pace to things, that we're thinking about what we're doing a lot more, I leave a much larger gap between episodes with these. They're somewhat intermittent, and I decided to make a regular upload schedule for these. And in fact, this was the beginning of my very first regular upload schedule. I'm doing a lot more of those nowadays. I've got a lot better recently at bringing out videos on time, but this is also this is where it all began. This is where the regularity started. And so these episodes come out exactly once per year on the same day of the year every single year. And that's a way to slow it down and make sure that anyone, no matter how little spare time they might have, will be able to keep up with the series. And also the regularity means that everyone will always know to expect it. And indeed, a lot of people have been looking forward to this one, as they have with the previous ones. Everyone knows to expect it. It's the one that people always remember. So yeah, this one might be a little bit late in the day this particular time. I left it a little bit late because I was uploading other things. But assuming that the actual YouTube upload goes fine, this will still be out on the right day, and I'll try and rein it in a little bit for next year. That's something I can work on in future. Bring it back down to like maybe a 6 p.m. upload. Though my 6 p.m. slot was busy this particular day, which is why I decided to push it later. But then it ended up a little bit too late. Anyway, we should get into what's going on, because of course many things have happened in the episode since I got started. We're at the 3-minute mark now of the episode, which means that we've had a full minute of gameplay. I mean, some of that was time spent looking at like the changes and updates and things like that, and doing the science. But of course, there's plenty to do here. We're already, I think, on to the next piece of science, quite possibly. We got turrets researched first. That seemed like a very important thing to do. I think we're on walls now, unfortunately. My preview window doesn't show me details, but I think that stone wall's being researched right now. I believe that's what I queued up next, because we've been having some issues with biters. In the last episode, we had our first biter attacks, which surprised me, honestly. I wasn't expecting there to be biters this soon in the game, but I didn't like rein in the biter settings or anything like that, so they've started relatively close by, and it seems like that's given them the opportunity to get some early pollution and decide to start attacking sooner. So I've already had, I think, 2 attacks against our base, and so I definitely want to work on defending against them, which is why I'm currently focusing on turret research, wall research, and also right now I've got some crafts queued up for ammunition and indeed some turrets themselves, so I can put them around the base and make sure we're defended. However, it's going to take a little bit of time for those to be ready, so in the meantime I make use of the wait to set up the next part of my production line here. To complete the supply of materials to my production square, I'm getting copper hooked up to the main bus, or well, I don't know if you could call it a main bus. It's a mini bus, or like something to that effect. I call this my production square. It's how I like to start a lot of my Factorio games, because it's just sort of 4 basic assemblers that help you get the first couple things you need ready. So we've got wires going into circuits, we've got gears going into red science packs, and that's running into the nearest lab. The production of the turrets is still ongoing, so I decide to make use of the little time that I've got repairing the damage from the previous biter attack. It's maybe not a super high priority, but they might attack again that particular location, and if that stuff is all ready and repaired up, then it might take them a little bit more time to break through those and move on to the next things, thus saving us some time building things. Time is a very important aspect in this series because, of course, knowing that only 6 minutes and 40 seconds of gameplay happens each episode and therefore each year, I'm making sure to pack in as much as I can in that time. This is the closest I've come to doing a speedrun of Factorio, and what better way to look over that speedrun than to slow it down and analyze every second of it. Make sure that I'm making good use of the time. Now, actually, what's coming up here is something where I don't make good use of time. I've realized an issue with the supply of gears to red science packs. It seems like it's not moving as quick as it could be. It seems like the basic inserter is taking precedence over the long-armed inserter because the long-armed inserter is slower, and therefore gears are going into the chest and they're not getting to the red sign. So I swap it out for 2 basic assemblers, hoping that then they would be sort of 50-50 responsible for taking gears out of the machine, and I realize actually none of that is necessary. The better option to go with here is to just have an inserter taking out of the storage chest. It's important that the red signs keep supplied with gears, so I want to make sure that it has access to the gear storage. Even if that means it'll be taking them away from myself, it'll still be going somewhere where it'll be useful for them to go. Now, we're coming up on about a third of the way through the episode, and the interesting thing about that is that it means that around about now is when I would have finished playing in normal time. You don't get much time when you have 6 minutes 40 seconds to really get anything done. You've got to prepare yourself. You've got to know what the factory looks like before you go in, set out what you want to be working on, and then run straight into it to make sure you can get all that done. Now, you see there, we had another biter attack, and that actually worked out very well for us because it was my first placement of a turret. I was just about done with some turret production and ready to start putting them down, and the first one I put down, and the moment I open the menu to put the ammo in, I see the biters appearing on the screen, so I quickly put the ammo in there, and they dealt with the biters. It took a little bit of damage, and we're going to not repair that for the moment because we're in a rush here. But yeah, it was good timing on that I happened to pick that direction first to plonk down a turret on, but that was one of the directions we'd had a biter attack from before. So I've got 5 turrets either made or in the making, and so I'm going to just plonk them down in sort of a 4 corners in a central location kind of arrangement, just making sure that I cover all the critical parts of the factory. I also checked upon the power situation briefly there, looking at the power pole to see what the state was with everything there. It seems like actually we're doing a pretty good job right now as it's looking with power. Though I still would like to make sure I stay ahead of the curve with that, make sure that I'm keeping a good supply of power. Restocking on iron from our iron supply. We've got a little bit of it sub-delivering to our production square, but not all of it is quite there yet. But I'm just using that for my personal supply right now, whereas the other 3 are dedicated to the automated side of things. If all else fails, I can always grab stuff off of that belt anyway. And of course, gears are being made and circuits are also being made, which I can use to help me out with crafting certain things. Now we'll go down to the south of the base and put a turret there. Next I'm going to put one next to the copper, and then finally stick one just kind of roughly in the middle of everything in case one of the outer turrets fails for whatever reasons. And that should hopefully deal with the biters for the next couple episodes. We'll see how that goes. I've only got a small amount of ammo in them. I put around about 10 basic ammo in each one because that's all I could muster in the brief time. Right now my iron supply is a little bit shorter than I'd like, and I think that's something I might work on in next year's episode, getting some electric miners down and maybe some sort of proper furnace system set up. Though something annoying about that is that the sort of ratios have changed. Actually, it's sort of annoying about the current system now I think about it, is that the rate that smelters smelt and miners mine has been changed so that the ratios aren't perfect anymore. Previously it was the case that it was basically a 1-to-1 ratio of burner mining drills to furnaces, but nowadays not so much. There's more of a delay in the operation of the furnaces, I believe, and so it would actually benefit, now I think about it, from setting up an electric miner system. We could make sure that all the stuff being mined is smelted, or we can make sure that all the smelters are running all the time, whatever. We can make it match up more nicely. But yeah, the iron supply starts to prove itself to be somewhat lacking in this episode as I continue to gather together the materials for defending against the biters, which is of course the main concern at the moment after losing a miner and a couple of other things, I think, maybe, in the previous episode. Maybe it was only the miner in the end, but of course that's the sign of things to come unless you deal with it. We'll stock up the stone mining system on just a little bit of coal to make sure that's running fine, though we have a decent supply of stone as it stands at the moment. Of course, with us having researched walls, we definitely want to consider putting up some stone walls around the place, but that'll take a little bit of time, some production work. We'll probably want to get a little bit of an array set up with some smelters and furnaces and the like to make sure that's all good. I believe we're now onto military research. I'm just keeping the focus on the combat stuff for now, getting all the basic red science things that are super cheap out of the way so that we just have that stuff. Because really it's not too expensive. The more expensive stuff is the higher tech end of red science, which we'll save for a little bit later when we might have some more solid production going. Anyway, while we go and restock the miners on iron with the coal that we've gathered from the coal miners. And by the way, we might need some more coal being mined as well to make sure we're good. Then again, if we switch to electric miners, that will save us on the requirement of coal. And as I go around getting all that sorted out, it's probably a good time to talk about the current state of Factorio relative to last time. We've had a bit of a change in trend from the previous episodes. Something that I mentioned last episode was that we were being very consistent in what state the game was in from one version of the one episode to the next, in that the versions of Factorio we were on were always sticking with the even numbers and were always in a stable state at the time that we would cover them. So it turns out that at the beginning of every April for the past 3 years, Factorio has always been in a stable state and 2 updates further on than previously. But this time, that has changed. The 0.17 update has taken longer than any other to be released. And indeed, it's taken more than a year. If the timing had been slightly different, this might have been the only episode in the history of the series in which a major update does not take place between 2 episodes. But as it is, it worked out that an update did take place. Just a month ago, pretty much. 0.17, of course, which was mostly sort of like preparing to like finish the release of the game. UI changes can definitely be seen here. You can see that the whole bar at the bottom is new and stuff. And I've just been hastily sort of plonking things into there so that I have a couple of key items to hand. I haven't really taken the time to assign a proper arrangement of materials, just because I feel like it would take away from time I could be spent working on the factory at the current state. Maybe at some point there'll come a time when I'm just waiting for something to be done, and then I'll take a little bit of time to work on the tool belt. Right now there are other pressing matters to attend to. I have decided to upgrade the power system. I know it's not necessary at this stage, but I feel like it's a good future-proofing for coming episodes to make sure that, like, for an episode or 2, I won't need to do any more work there. Just get it out of the way now and free up time in the future for other projects. Yeah, only 1 update has taken place since the last episode, and we are still very solidly in the middle of its experimental phase. I mean, it's pretty stable as things stand, really, but we're still actively getting updates once or twice a week, fixing various different bugs that people are finding and making slight tweaks and stuff. One thing you might have noticed is a recent change to the pollution. There's no longer this sort of fade-off of pollution towards the edge of its coverage that means that you can barely see it. Now, they make sure that you can always very clearly see what tiles are polluted and what tiles aren't, and then there is still like a deeper red for stronger levels of pollution. It's just a general increase in visibility, so you can very clearly tell where the borders are and whether they are overlapping biter bases, which indeed they are right now, and that's something that definitely needs to be dealt with, and directly rather than indirectly as we're currently doing it. Defenses will only hold for so long. We need to take the fight to the biters somewhere along the line. And so, yes, another thing about the updates is that last episode I was relatively confident that by the time of this episode we will be on the full release of Factorio. It seemed like the developers were going to be releasing, quotation marks, next summer, which has become something of a joke amongst the community, considering that Factorio has been releasing next summer for the past about 4 years. But every time at a certain point before the summer, the particular summer of any year turns up, they always move it to the next summer. And they move it later and later each time as they become more confident that they might actually manage it, and then they push it back. And while maybe this is a mistake to say, I will say that I am confident this time, even considering what's been happening so far, that Factorio will be in full release by the time of next episode. It seems like they are at this stage wrapping things up. There is a small chance that they won't be out. I mean, considering that we've had this happen multiple times before, but it really seems like they're just making the final touches to the game at this stage. So episode 5 may well be in the full release of Factorio, and then from there on, that'll be how it goes. And I'm sure there'll be more updates of various kinds going ahead, but there'll be much more minor things, maybe DLCs and things, and I'm not really sure how that works. I don't know if there's any plans to have any paid DLCs, so I'm not sure how that would work. Maybe it would just be more updates, bringing in new features, updating the game to more modern specs and things like that. I'm interested to see what happens to Factorio once it is considered a full game, once there is nothing more that they feel needs to be added, what Wuba Software will do with it. But we probably have a good idea of what we're going to be doing with the series, how we're going to be moving forward. I'd like to get Green Sign started on relatively soon. I'm thinking that'll happen in about 2 episodes' time. Maybe not the next episode, because there's a couple too many bits of busy work to be getting on with in the meantime. And there is the biter issue that we do need to deal with. And indeed, I'm working towards that right now. So you may have noticed that I'm making a few key crafts right now. I'm making a turret, some armor, and some ammunition. I've decided that we do need to take the fight to the biters, and sooner rather than later. So I've decided to finish off this year's episode with an attack on one of the nearby biter bases, just to take the pressure off a little bit, have a few less biters attacking us. May end up causing us trouble if we end up with more medium biters being spawned, because the biters aren't happy about it. But we have to push them back, or they're just going to keep attacking as the pollution continues to worsen. So I'm working on gathering together as much iron as I can to make plenty of ammo, so that I can go forth and take out one of the bases that is inside pollution range. So I've restocked on coal to take some of that back to the furnaces. Make sure that's all working. One of them has shut down, which is no good. That's a 6 of our production gone, and every little bit matters when things are when you have to move this fast. So I'm making sure to restock, just grabbing like half stacks and dumping them in the ones that are suffering most. I'd like to get to a state where I can just run up with 10 stacks of coal and dump it all in there, but we need a hell of a lot more in the way of coal mines to do that. And I'm not sure if there's actually any coal deposits that near to the base. I think there's only a really tiny one that we're already mostly using, which is a little bit of a concern really. And there's also a small deposit that we're using to power our power systems. I believe when I last checked that only had like 200 coal left in it, which is not a fantastic amount. We could end up running through that. It won't be an immediate thing. It's not something we have to worry about right away, but I definitely need to keep that in mind going forwards, that at some point we are going to have to go find coal elsewhere. Indeed, there may not be enough of a supply right now, looking at it. I think I may have grabbed some off the belt, though. Hopefully that's why it's not built up very much there. It does seem to be starting to build up. I can see 2 there, and a 3rd is on its way. And neither of the inserters are doing any grabbing quite yet. Anyway, I go running down the iron belt, grabbing what I can there, because I've already looted the chests, and I go and loot them again, I think. Oh no, actually, I'm done. I've decided that is enough, that we have enough iron, and so I start to set off. I craft the last little bits of ammo that I can, but I make a realization I'm missing a key item for this attack. I only have the pistol. I need a submachine gun to have a rate of fire that'll get the attack done before we run out of time for this episode. Indeed, it does turn out that I run over by a little bit with this one. In fact, I run over more than I have in any previous episode of Factslowrio. I think there's almost there's something like a full extra minute of playing in the end, which translates to 3 minutes of this. So this is an extra long episode, longest we've had. We've had sort of running over in the past. Generally, we run over by at least a few seconds, but this is by far the furthest run over, because I felt like I couldn't really stop the episode mid-biter attack. That just doesn't seem right. So anyway, we set off crafting the submachine gun as we go. We've got to make efficient use of our time here, so we can use our travel time for crafting purposes. There's not much else we can craft, of course, because I'm using every bit of iron I can to prepare ammunition and things for this fight. It's very important that I have enough ammo. I don't want to run out midway through, or I might get killed, the first death of the series. And maybe we call this a permadeath. Maybe we say that when I die, it is over. I'm not sure. I mean, we have to have some sort of endpoint, and I'm a little bit concerned that we might not be able to rush to the rocket launch in time. That might take a little bit too long. I might want to wrap up the series because I'm not really playing Factorio anymore by that point. You know, people have done some calculations based on like speedrun times and how long it would take in terms of years to get through, and yeah, it's a concern. I would like to get as far as I can at the very least. Anyway, I arrive at the base and I try and set up a turret to help me with fighting the biters, but it ends up that the biters spot me because I go a little bit too close, and I end up just having to fight them where I stand. But it goes pretty well. I decide that I should probably clear out the turret, but I decide to leave it because I realize time is short. We don't have time to be messing about dealing with picking up and putting down turrets when we need to deal with the base, and we need to make sure this episode ends before too long. But already over time at this stage, the 20-minute mark is when this is supposed to finish. But yeah, the attack actually goes pretty well in the end. Once the main group of biters has been dealt with, all I have to do is keep firing, deal with any biters that run out of the base towards me. See me tracking it there and making sure that I take the thing out before it gets to me. Taking a small amount of damage, but that will ultimately heal. Might take some time, but it's only a few seconds after a biter, after taking damage that you do start to heal. But yeah, we just have to focus on the base and occasionally switch to the attacking biters, and very quickly we get the base dealt with. It's something of an epic battle, considering the timing of it. But there is our first victory over the biters. We've taken out one of the bases inside pollution range, but there are many more, and some of them are more dangerous than others. If we want to take out the rest of them, we're going to have to make larger, greater preparations for them, get maybe some armor-piercing ammunition and things like that, maybe get the next step of armor, though I believe that requires steel, which is something we're going to have to work towards. I believe I completed steel research in the episode, though, so I think that means that we can work on steel production next time. And also, of course, we don't no longer need that for the mining, the pickaxe. That is also something that is gone, and that is affecting us directly in this episode. A lot of the other stuff doesn't, because it was sort of more general things, but the UI changes and the lack of the pickaxe have come into play. Unfortunately, science queuing isn't something I can do because they set it so that by default it's not enabled in factories that you port over to 0.17, which I wish wasn't the case, but we'll just have to deal with it. I mean, it's not too bad. We've only got the one lab working on things right now, but anyway, we're pretty much out of time for today, so yeah, next episode we'll see, maybe we can try and get steel going, maybe we can work towards green science, or maybe we can see about dealing with more biters, or just getting more iron production. More iron production is one of the key things that ties it all together, really, but that is all we have time for this year, so until next time I shall say goodbye, thank you for watching, and I shall see you then next April.